So I wanted to cover a little bit of what's going to happen with the SEC. So I decided to talk about it. But first, how was that intro, though? The new intro, it's probably going to be like that. I did one for every single sport. Let's just dive right into this topic. So I just want to clarify first that the SEC is still probably going to be the best conference in college football, as it is deserving so. But I do want to state that it has fallen off, and there are a bunch of teams that will probably fall off this season. I'll start off with some teams that have fallen off, and I'll start right now. I think that LSU has fallen off a lot, and this is probably the most obvious one because Joe Burrow has left, and soon Joe Brady will leave. When Joe Burrow is gone, they're going to go back to a bunch of run plays where they just hand it off and do these failed jet sweeps 3 times until they have to punt it. I do think that they will be still solid. I think they'll be either 9-3 or 8-4. Another team I think is going to drop off is Alabama. This is kind of an obvious one. Like Tua's gone, Jerry Jeudy's gone, Xavier McKinney's gone, and Henry Ruggs is gone. They still do have Jalen Waddle, who I think is the best punt returner in college football. And they have Darwin Smith, who put up over 200 yards and I think 6 or 5 touchdowns in a game against Ole Miss last year. I think Texas A&M will be a shocker. I think they're going to be pretty solid. They have pretty much the same core coming back with Kellen Mond, but they have to be in a win-now mode, considering the fact that Kellen Mond is going to be probably going to the NFL next year because, he's a pretty good talent, and it will probably end up being like a mid-second round pick, I'd say. All right, the next topic, the next team I'm going to talk about is Florida. I think Florida is going to be really good. I actually think they're going to be in the SEC championship. I think they might have a shot to get into the playoffs, but there is a possibility that they do their 2017 impression where they just lose 8 games and don't get into a bowl. I think they're going to be pretty good. They have most of the same guys coming back. But they did lose out on their corner, Henderson. CJ Henderson. I think he's going to do good for the Jaguars. But another topic that we need to talk about is Auburn. I think Auburn's going to be better than last year. Auburn last year beat Alabama, but they did have some bad games last year. Like they got blown out to Minnesota in the Outback Bowl. A lot of people were actually watching the Citrus Bowl because Alabama played against Michigan, and everybody wanted to see that matchup. But I really want to watch the other game because I watched most of the other game. I don't know. It was just a good game to watch. But other thing, I think Auburn's going to be better because Bo Nix is coming back, and he's older, and they're going to have another year after next season of him. And they have a sophomore running back, which will be good. And I do think they'll be solid. But one thing that I have to mention that Auburn has is I don't think they're going to be that good. I mean, they did beat Bama, but Bama was missing Tua, and they did kind of barely beat them. And Bama had a backup quarterback in. But I do think Auburn will be solid this year. They just cannot afford to lose a game against Missouri or Vanderbilt. They need to just beat those teams, and they pretty much can't lose to a team, I'd say, other than Bama or Florida. Maybe even Georgia. The next team I'm going to talk about is Georgia. I think Georgia will be solid. They're good, and they're losing Jake Fromm and DeAndre Swift, which is going to be probably huge, but they just got to transfer from USC, which I think everybody saw. That'll probably help them out a lot. But one thing that Georgia is missing is they haven't really had a good quarterback in a while. Like, sure, Drake Vaughn's good, but I just don't think he was elite. He wasn't great, but he was solid, I guess. But he wasn't like dominant. I think another team that probably deserves to be talked about is Tennessee. Tennessee, I would guess, finishes the season 7-5 to 8-4. Tennessee's good. They aren't like an elite program. Like the elite programs in the SEC, I'd say is Auburn, Florida, Bama, LSU, Georgia, maybe Texas A&M. And I don't think that they can, like, Tennessee's good. I think they might beat one of those teams. Maybe they'll beat, I don't know, but probably not. But I think they might beat Georgia. I'm not 100% sure because Georgia's good and all. But, yeah. I think South Carolina will be okay, maybe 8-4. And maybe playing the Outback Bowl if they're lucky. I think Missouri will be about 5-7. Vanderbilt 3-9. Arkansas, I say, will be 2-10 to 3-9. I can see Mississippi State going 6-6, 5-7, 7-5. Anything in between there. They're an elite program, but they're always barely bowl eligible when they get it in the last week of the college football season. I'm going to make my predictions for the SEC championship, like the champion of the East Division and the West, and my runners-up. I'm going to start off with the East Division. I think Florida will run away with the East Division, and my runner-up is Georgia. I think Florida will beat Georgia, and both teams will have pretty much about the same wins, except I think Florida will beat Georgia, which will give them the edge. So that's why I think. And I also think that the runner-up could be Tennessee, but I see it being Georgia. Georgia's good, and I think it'll be Tennessee in third, Georgia second, Florida playing for the SEC title. The West Division, I think I'm going to do my 4 because there are 3 teams that I consider, all of them I kind of consider even. I see Auburn winning the West because I think Bo Nix is good. He played pretty good last year, I'd say. So Auburn, and then I'd say Bama, and then LSU or Texas A&M. Whoever wins their game against each other, I'd say gets the spot. But I think LSU will barely pull it off. I'm going to talk a little bit about Ole Miss. Ole Miss, I think, will be 4-8 to 6-6. I don't think they're an elite program or a bad program. They're just average. I'm going to be talking a little bit about my playoff predictions for college football. I think my 1 seed will be Ohio State, unbiasedly, but I mean, they've had the best recruiting in 2021, and they're just an insane program. And another team that I'm going to talk about is, and I think number 2 goes to Clemson, then probably Auburn or Florida, and then Clemson.